Good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone that is joining us this afternoon. Welcome to this Facebook Live discussion to commemorate the life and legacy of Dag Hammarskjold, the second UN Secretary General. My name is Mark Maseko. I am the National Information Officer at UNIC Lusaka, which is part of the Office of the UN Resident Coordinator. As we start, let me recognize the presence on this meeting of the UN Resident Coordinator, Her Excellency Dr. Kumba Magadio. I also want to recognize Her Excellency Ms. Anna Hammarskjold, the Swedish Ambassador to Zambia. Also joining us, we're expecting a representative from the Copperbelt University, Dag Hammarskjold Institute for Peace and Conflict Studies. We also have some artists joining us, Joseph Pupe, Wezi, and Biflo. And indeed, a warm welcome to all the youth that are joining us this afternoon, including members of the media that are joining us. Let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, this event, as I hinted at the beginning, is meant to observe the life and legacy of Mr. Dag Hammarskjold, who, as I said, was the second UN Secretary General who died in a plane crash here in Zambia. In terms of the outline of the program, after my remarks, in terms of opening, I'll invite the UN Resident Coordinator to give her remarks, after which we will have the Swedish Ambassador to also give her remarks. And then we expect the representative from the Copperbelt University, the Dag Hammarskjold Institute for Peace and Conflict Studies, to give a presentation. I was in touch with the director. They are on travel, so in case there are connectivity problems, we will instead have two short videos on Dag Hammarskjold. After that, we're going to have a discussion through question and answer, through which we invite all of you participating to send in your comments or questions in the chat function. As we close the program, I'll invite one of our artists, Joseph Pupe, to give us a peace-themed song. And then after that, we'll have the unveiling of the I Stand for Peace in Zambia challenge by the youth artists. So Joseph will do that, and then Biflo will follow to talk about it, and then we'll look at the next steps and close the program. Let me indicate as we start that the UN in Zambia has, through the UN Information Center, partnered with the Zambian government and the Swedish Embassy, and also the Dag Hammarskjold Institute in commemorating the life and legacy of Dag Hammarskjold. We do this in order to draw lessons from his accomplishments so that we can forge ahead with a peaceful community and also peaceful country, and broadly a peaceful world that we want. So in terms of housekeeping issues, this discussion is non-political, so we encourage all the participants to really stick to the issues, and also we don't encourage any specific mentions of any political parties or indeed events that will link directly with political parties, because as you know, the United Nations is neutral, so we want to maintain our neutrality even as we engage with all of you. So thank you very much. That's all I can say in terms of introductions. I now have the honor and privilege to introduce the UN Resident Coordinator, Dr. Kumba Magadio, to give her remarks. Your Excellency, Dr. Kumba, over to you.
Thank you, Mark. The Swedish Ambassador to Zambia, Her Excellency Ms. Anna Hammarskjold, the General Secretary for the National Youth Development Council, Mr. Musonda, Ms. Karin Abor Svensson, Program Manager, Dag Hammarskjold Foundation, who is joining us from Sweden, the representative from the Copperbelt University, Dag Hammarskjold Institute for Peace and Conflict Studies, United Nations colleagues, all the youth who have joined us, including musicians Wezi, B. Flo and Joseph Pupe, UN 75 associates, coordinators, and UNA members, the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am honored to join you on virtual event when we commemorate 59 years of the death of the second United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Dag Hammarskjold, who died in Ndola while on a mission to bring peace to Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. Today, we celebrate his life and his achievements. Dag Hammarskjold served as UN Secretary General with integrity and a deep passion to bring peace. Right from the start of his term in 1953, he was aware of the huge task that he had to bring unity to be compounded by the Cold War. But he looked ahead with optimism and knew he could make a difference. His qualities as a careful planner and proven negotiator enabled him to resolve several conflicts. He was a true diplomat from whom we can learn today. As the UN Secretary General, His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres said on Tuesday during this year's event at New York headquarters to commemorate the 59th anniversary of the death of the Dag Hammarskjold, I quote, although he had a diverse diplomatic career and was a man of many interests, Dag Hammarskjöld's name is forever linked to the United Nations. Until his tragic passing, he led our organization with courage and purpose, and we owe him a lot. End of quote. As we mark the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, we must remember that Dag Hammarskjold played a key role in shaping the United Nations into peacemaking and peacekeeping organization. And just as he himself exuded personality, humility, so did he stress that the organization, while also not perfect, nonetheless embodied a fierce commitment to advancing peace, sustainable development, and human rights. More than 6 years ago, he spoke of our world as becoming ever more connected, a world in which, I quote, the weakness of one is the weakness of all. I repeat, the weakness of one is the weakness of all. And the strength of one is indirectly the strength of all. End of quotation. Today, his words and vision are timely than ever. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we have once again seen that international solidarity is no longer a choice, but an obligation. This sentiment has been expressed by many people during the ongoing UN 75 campaign, through which the United Nations wants to hear global voices on the future we want amid the COVID-19 crisis. We need to work together to stop the spread of the virus and in ensuring that we find a vaccine that is accessible to all. We also need to work together to recover better, protect the most vulnerable, and reduce the inequalities heightened by the pandemic. Today, we have a lot to learn from Dag Hammarskjold. We can learn about the importance of peace. Let us all be peacemakers and always remember that peace is the building block to sustainable development. As we have this year entered the last 10 years of the Sustainable Development Goals, we should keep in mind that without peace, there can be no sustainable development. Let us use this decade of action to foster peace for us to have the future that we want. I am happy to note that so many young people have joined this event today. It is important that you, the youth, take a keen interest in ensuring that Zambia continues to enjoy the peace that has been in this nation since independence. As the future of this nation, the youth should be in the forefront in rejecting violence, including in times of elections. We have many examples the world over about how violence is neither a solution nor a good means to achieving political power. Compete in the marketplace of ideas and not fist or weapons. I think that's a very important statement for youth. Youth should work with all the people and across all institutions and leadership structures to ensure coexistence and the achievement of a peaceful Zambia so that the country lives up to its motto, one Zambia, one nation. As I close, I wish to underscore the continued partnership of the United Nations with the government and people of Zambia in fostering development in Zambia. We should always aim to do more and remember the words of Dag Hammarskjold that even in the best one, there is always much to improve. And colleagues, if you allow, I want to take advantage of this opportunity also to recognize the partnership between the Swedish Corporation and the United Nations. We have benefited from a lot of support from your embassy, from your cooperation, from Sweden and the people of Sweden that we highly appreciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kumba, for your remarks. Truly appreciated. Very, very important words, especially to our young people in Zambia today. Next on the program, let me invite Her Excellency, the Swedish Ambassador to Zambia, Ms. Anna Hammarskjold, to give us her remarks. Your Excellency, over to you.
Thank you, Zikomo. Dear Resident Coordinator, Dr. Kumba, and representatives from Dag Hammarskjold Institute for Peace and Conflict Studies at the Copperbelt University, renowned artists and participants from youth organizations, and audience on live streaming channels. I'm very pleased to participate in this important live event and offer some remarks. It is indeed, as mentioned, extraordinary times we are living in and challenging circumstances due to the current COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm very grateful that we are able, in commemoration of Dag Hammarskjold, to hold this discussion on youth, peace and security, and that it can take place in this virtual format. As we mentioned today, we honor Dag Hammarskjold, his staff and crew who tragically lost their lives now almost 60 years ago in the incident in Andola. Dag Hammarskjold was a Swedish civil servant and deputy foreign minister in Sweden before he was selected as Secretary General of the UN in 1953. Dag Hammarskjold was a true statesman and a true UN civil servant. For 8 years, he served as the UN Secretary General, a turbulent time and with a fresh and newly established organization that was questioned from various directions. While the world today is different in many ways, we do recognize the negative rhetoric against the UN and international cooperation. This trend must be reversed, and with the UN turning 75 this year, we must use the opportunity before us and honor Dag Hammarskjöld's legacy by strengthening our support to multilateral cooperation and a rule-based order with the UN as at its core. The exact circumstances surrounding the fateful plane crash in Andola on September 18 in 1961 that killed Dag Hammarskjold and his staff and crew is still unknown, and Sweden have for several years taken initiative to prolong the mandate of the UN independent investigator to get us closer to the truth. So the work now continues in trying to bring us closer to a conclusion about the truth behind the death of Dag Hammarskjold, his crew and staff. Sweden's efforts will continue for the sake of the United Nations, but foremost to those who lost their life that day almost 60 years ago, and to their families who are still left with unanswered questions. Today's proportion of young people is the largest in history, and Sweden firmly believes that investing in youth will determine our success in the achievement of the SDGs and realizing the principle of leaving no one behind of the 2030 agenda. Young people are not a homogeneous group and are not facing the same risks of being left behind. In order to build back better, we need to improve the meaningful participation of young people as partners in decision making. During the pandemic, youths globally have contributed to sustaining societal functions, even when dealing with loss of jobs, education, and shrinking civic space. It is therefore more important than ever that we facilitate participation, intergenerational dialogue, and find solutions to the various challenges that youth are facing in the current situation. Sweden has consistently made efforts to facilitate young people's democratic organization and the inclusion and consultation of youth representatives in policy dialogue. Sweden's drive for democracy also aims to facilitate inclusion and participation in democratic processes, including youth. Youth inclusion in peace processes and decision-making related to peace and security is still limited. However, there is strong and increased engagement of youth in civil society. So support to and partnership with civil society will therefore continue to be a priority, as well as to open channels for youth participation in formal processes. Funding opportunities of youth-led organizations must increase for youth to be able to break some of the barriers to meaningful engagement. And finally, we must work harder to encourage the creation of open and safer environments for young women and men, human rights defenders and peace builders. Threats against human rights defenders and peace builders can never be accepted. Thank you, Zikomo.
That's great. Zikomo, Your Excellency, thank you very much for your wonderful remarks, telling us a little bit more about who Dag Hammarskjold was and what he accomplished at the time when he faced great opposition, even to some of the things that that he was trying to achieve. But as we have learned from documentation, Dag Hammarskjold was one statesman and diplomat who believed in the values of the UN Charter. He mentioned many times that even if you are facing a challenge in living up to an ideal, it does not mean that that ideal is wrong. All you have to do is keep believing in it and keep pushing. So thank you very much for your remarks. It appears Your Excellency again. I was just checking. It appears our guests from the Copperbelt University have not managed to join us because of poor connectivity, because they are on travel outside Lusaka. So we'll still keep monitoring and see if they'll be able to join. Then they can give the presentation. But what we are going to do now, I'll request my colleague Charles, who is handling the technical aspects, to play us one or two videos just to give us a bit more information on the life and work of Mr. Dag Hammarskjold. Charles, if you could please cue the videos now. Thank you. Technical support, please check. I'm not sure, maybe I'm the only one. I'm not getting sound on the video.
To inform you that an armistice agreement has been entered into between the United Nations Command and the commanders of
426th plenary session of the Assembly is called to order. And we will proceed with the installation of the Secretary General of the United Nations.
Dag Hammarskjold solemnly swear to exercise in all loyalty, discretion, and conscience. It is for you to judge how I succeed. It is for you to correct me if I fail.
I have the honor to inform you that an armistice agreement has been entered into between the United Nations Command and the commanders of the Communist forces in Korea.
Mr. Ambassador, the whole world is thankful that negotiations with Panmunjom have brought the fighting in Korea to an end by the signature of an armistice agreement. The United Nations Secretariat joins me in paying tribute to the men and women of many lands who have risked or given their lives in defense of the principles of the Charter.
As members of the United Nations Emergency Force, we are taking part in an experience that is new in history. You are soldiers of peace in the first international force of its kind. You have come from distant homelands, not to fight a war, but to serve peace and justice and order under the authority of the United Nations. Thus, the opportunity for service, which is yours, is not to be measured by your numbers or your armor. You are the front line of a moral force which extends around the world, and you have behind you the support of millions everywhere.
A new kind of army with a new kind of job. The world's first international force to police the peace under UN command. The UNEF's first job, to separate the invading forces from the Egyptians.
Mr. Chairman, friends and colleagues, the surprise you have given me, because this is a surprise, I heard about it only late yesterday night. I said in the Congo some time ago that the birth of an independent Congo had come to coincide with the birth of true cooperation of the United Nations family of agencies in the service of a member nation. As a spokesman for all these organizations, I can say that we are proud that we have been permitted to serve in this way. But I should add that we will be even prouder when, through all the joint efforts, the stage has been reached when our services are no longer necessary in the Congo, and when we can leave the country solely and fully in the good hands of its own people, with its independence, peace and prosperity safeguarded by its own means.
Craft carrying Mr. Dag Hammarskjold, Secretary General of the United Nations, crashed into the bush 7.5 miles north of Ndola.
The great poet of the last century once said that he alone merits freedom and life and knows how daily to justify his claim. This United Nations Day, we have reason to remember the truth of this, as men interested in the progress towards peace and order to which the United Nations is devoted. We are all aware of the great problems which are reflected in the conflicts of present-day international politics. In the efforts to resolve those problems, the United Nations has a crucial responsibility. Let us prove that we are able to see far and to judge with courage and equity. Then we should be able to develop the organization we have created
for the powerful instrument it should be. Then we shall merit freedom of life as the reward of our efforts to meet the challenge of the international conflicts of our time. We are conscious on this day not only of the challenge of our difficulties, but also the challenge of our opportunities. The difficulties in the way of international cooperation are real, but the opportunities are also great. The great advance towards universality of membership in the United Nations has made our organization more representative of the several interests of the world community than before, and capable of wider and more effective action to reconcile those interests for the common good. And our material progress has given us greater power to help each other than previous generations had. We know that those forces in man and the tremendous forces in nature which give us the power to hurt can be turned to give us equal powers to heal. In observing the United Nations Day, may each of us reaffirm his determination to play his own part in our effort to wrest freedom of life from our trials, our conflicts, and our struggles.
So last video.
Thank you very much, Charles, for playing the videos. What we are going to do now is just shift the program slightly. I'm told there are some challenges with those who are trying to follow on Facebook. So I just want to quickly check with our technical team what is happening on with that. But what we can do, just in order to keep the program moving, let me check if Joseph, one of our performing artists, is able to join now, so that he can talk about his inspiration. There's a peace song that Joseph has done, so that we can hear about the inspiration behind the song, and just one or two comments from him. After which we'll play the peace song. Hopefully by then we can get a resolution on the Facebook challenge, so that we can get our participants to send in their questions. Charles, please advise if Joseph is ready to connect now.
I'm trying to get hold of him. He left the studio a while ago.
Okay, good. All right, okay. And any news on the Facebook connection for the other colleagues?
It's 15 hours.
There seems to be a plugin issue, but everyone is being redirected to the YouTube channel, so they are seeing it from there.
Okay.
To be able to advise once the plugin is sorted out.
All right. Okay. Thank you for that. Please do alert me soon as that one is resolved. So, okay. Yeah, I think what we can do now is I'll still request Joseph, or rather Charles, if you could please bring in the song that Joseph did, so that then we can, just concentrate on the discussion for the last part of the program, as we wait for B-Flow to come and do the I Stand for Zambia aspect at the end. So Charles, if you could please bring in the song. Over.
We are not for peace. Tatwaishira Okra, we stand for peace. Say no to violence. As one son, one nation, we stand for I stand for peace. I stand for peace. Oh, I stand for peace. I stand for peace. Oh, I stand for peace. I stand for peace. Oh, I stand for peace. In river fresh, a leader from the I stand for peace. I stand for peace, for violence, for peace. I stand for peace, for peace. I stand for peace, for peace. I stand for peace. I stand for peace, oh, I stand for peace. I stand for peace, for peace, for peace.
Thank you very much. That was the peace-themed song by Joseph Pupe, who I can see now in the function, rather in the video. Joseph, I should mention, has partnered with us as the UN Information Center in the past during our school outreach activities, where he has given his time and energy to help us sensitize youth on issues including the Sustainable Development Goals. So thank you, Joseph, for honoring us by joining us this afternoon. And wonderful song, well done. So maybe if you could please take a few moments just to explain the inspiration behind this song, that you did about peace. Over to you, Joseph.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you, Your Excellency, and I'm humbled to be a part of this incredible show. So I, as an associate of United Nations Information Center, as Mark just mentioned, I've always believed in music as a tool for creating inclusive and participatory structures for the advancement of social equality and civic participation, especially in decision-making processes at community level. And using my ability, I've achieved this by enhancing the power of music and performance with songs such as I Stand for Peace to inspire, support, and just facilitate the creative communication storytelling around peace building. The I Stand for Peace song is a song that means so much to me. I remember it's composed and curated in ways with the aim of attracting interest, engagements of policymakers, corporate leaders, and grassroots communities, and obviously other key players to rethink and reinforce our action-oriented commitments, desires that perhaps would echo towards a more participatory and inclusive structures, institutions, and communities. Essentially, their Stand for Peace is aimed at inspiring young people from all backgrounds to realize their innate power and ability to create and achieve sustainable peace. And thanks to UNIC for the support and platforms, and also for conditions for the participation of young people such as me and many others to be a part, not only as beneficiaries, but also as key players and contributors in peace building and peace sustainability. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically the song, and over to you, Mr. Maseko.
Great. Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you for sharing your inspiration. So I appreciate Charles is encouraging our youth, the UN75 associates and coordinators, to send in any questions that they might have. I've received 2 so far, and I think we'll split these between the resident coordinator and the Swedish ambassador. So I'll start with the first one. How can countries ensure that youth meaningfully participate in developmental issues, especially now that we are talking about the importance of youth participation? So how can countries ensure that youth meaningfully participate in developmental issues, especially now that we are talking about the importance of youth participation? So I'll give this question to Her Excellency, the Swedish ambassador. Over to you, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much for a very, very good and very important question. I would also like to thank Joseph for the introduction and for the peace song. I think it was wonderful to hear about it and hear the song itself. I think there is a lot that countries actually can do in support of meaningful participation of youth. And I think I also did mention a few things in my initial remarks. I agree that we have to be specifically active, I think, and targeting youth to get their inclusion. And I think that one way is actually a bit like we are doing now. We need to be in and at the platform and engage where we have youth. And to get the participation. And that might mean to move to a bit of different platforms than we are sometimes used to. And I think everything from being on social media to use music, as we heard before, is very, very important. I also think it starts quite early with the influence that children and kids might have in their close environment and in school, and just to practice to be listened to and to take an active part in their in the society. And that is a process also where schools and education play an important role. I think also that governments and countries actively should support youth organizations as part of civil society support, which is very, very important, and also by way of funding and opportunities for those organizations. That was a few examples. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Excellency. The next question will go to the resident coordinator.
Mark, before you go to the next question, I want to contribute to what the ambassador excellently said from a UN perspective to show a bit what we are doing in countries with the youth organization. And before that, I need to also congratulate Joseph for a very great performance. Thank you for being here. Ambassador, not long ago, the Deputy Secretary General of the UN organized a youth forum in Zimbabwe. It was like just before the pandemic started. And we brought together more than 1,000 youth from various countries around the world. And some of the lessons that we learned from that gathering was that it is extremely important to engage with youth. It is your first point that you mentioned, to discuss, to dialogue with youth, to be able to identify what can be done, what are the needs, what can be contributed to them, to their organizations, so that they can participate fully. We learned from there that it is very important for youth. It is one of their main requests to participate in decision-making processes, decisions regarding their country's their future, their country's development, their country's, they need to be part of structures where decisions are made. It was one of the main asks that we get from the youth, and I think it needs to be further discussed to see concretely what can be done. From the UN also, we know that it is very important into our development programs to take into account the youth. Both men and women, youth should be part of those programs. We should develop more specifically programs dedicated to youth, and particularly to their employment, programs that will promote youth employment, youth education, research for youth. Youth should have their specific needs taken into account in all programming that we do. And it is one of the main program, or a main priority, if I can put it that way, into the Agenda 2030 for the Secretary General, His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres. He asked all of us in countries to focus, to support the government, focus on youth, their priorities and their needs, and into programs that they will define themselves as being a priority. So thank you very much. That's what I wanted to add to what our ambassador excellently said already. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kumba. Now coming to the second question, and now the questions are coming in quite rapidly. I think now we have about 6. This one says, why is it important for peace in order to have development? Are countries doing enough to help youth? I'll repeat the question, why is it important for peace to have development? Are countries doing enough to help youth? Over to you, Dr. Kumba. You're on mute, Dr. Kumba.
Sorry. Without peace, there is no development. In a country where you have violence, where you have war, where you have disputes, there is no development. People don't have time to concentrate and invest on development. They will rather invest on stopping those violence or disputes or conflicts among people. So for the UN, peace is at the start of development. If we have peace, we are able to dialogue, we are able to identify what are the needs of a country to develop, what are the needs of a country, what are the priorities to dialogue. So peace is key into whatever we do in life. If we don't start with peace, there is no way we can be successful, I think. And I think that our countries need to do more. We cannot say that they don't do nothing. They are working on it. They are dialoguing, putting youth organizations, empowering them to participate into decision making. Some of the countries are already doing it, but it's not enough. We should do more. We should dedicate more resources to empowering youth so that they can contribute to a development of a country. They can contribute to the peace of a country. So I trust that our governments are trying hard, they are doing, but they can do more to make sure that youth are fully and giving all their potential into the development process of a specific country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Ambassador, please go ahead.
Thank you. Just to add, I think that was an excellent answer by Dr. Kumba. To mention that we have, as lately, also focused a lot, Sweden, to highlight the role of women in peace processes and negotiations. I think that we have not seen previously, and there are a number of reasons for the importance of having women included in all stages of the process and at the table, including at the table. In the same way, I think that we should increasingly look at how youth can be included. And if you look, as I mentioned in my remarks, especially in Africa, it's such a huge amount of young people proportionally in a country. It's the future. It's so important because it's also about democracy and in democratic processes where when there are such a huge amount of young people, it's so important for their participation. Otherwise, it is not really reflecting correctly and democratically how the society looks like and the steps and decision making in those societies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for that. So what I'll do now, I'll mention the next 2 questions. And the first one will be taken by Dr. Kumba, then the next one by the Ambassador. But I'll just mention them now. So the question that we've received, the youth that sent to start with said, Joseph Pupe is such an inspiration. Then the question follows, can the UN system young people and other partners help to create standards for meaningful youth engagement? Could we come up with indicators that actually qualify meaningful youth engagement? So the question again, can the UN system, young people and other partners help to create standards for meaningful youth engagement? Could we come up with indicators that actually qualify meaningful youth engagement? And I'll just mention the next question, which will go to the ambassador. Could this platform also be used to unpack the resolution 2250 to a level that could easily be understood by young people from all areas? Now, more than ever, we need to unite for peace. Could this platform, I'll repeat, could this platform also be used to unpack the resolution 2250 to a level that could easily be understood by young people from all areas? Now more than ever, we need to unite for peace. So we'll start with Dr. Kumba for the first question on indicators to qualify meaningful youth engagement. Over.
Mark, I think that you can yourself also answer to some of the questions, because you are one of our champions working with youth organizations in Zambia. And I will call on you also to come into the discussions to talk about the indicators. I think you are in a good position to do so. For the UN system here in Zambia, working with youth is critical, and we are trying to, through all our agencies to develop programs to address the needs of youth. And we try to do it jointly through agencies. I know that our UNFPA, UNICEF, and ILO do a lot to promote youth employment and to just do youth empowerment. I know that we work with different youth organizations, and that's where I want to call Mark, because there are some platforms that are set up already by the UN where we converse with youth organizations, and where Mark will be giving the specifics of what we do with those organizations. So Mark, you can start there, and I will come back to this question.
Thank you very much, RC, for that one. Yes, the United Nations, to start with, I should mention that the UN delivers support to the people and government of Zambia through the UN partnership framework, which is a document created in partnership with the government. So the partnership framework that we are currently using runs from 2016 to 2021. And within that partnership framework, interventions have been spelled out in terms of support for youth. Now, in order to ensure successful implementation of those interventions, the United Nations has come up with results groups and theme groups. So one of the results groups talks about the importance of working with women, youth, and other groups. So working with the principle of leaving no one behind, the United Nations has been working with youth. One of the platforms that have been created is the UN partnership platform. And I noticed some of the youth that are participating this afternoon, like Betha from Chipata, who actually sent in this question, is a member of the UN YPP, the UN Youth Partnership Platform. So that is one of the areas. Now, depending on the area of intervention, we also have agencies through their programs of support, where they are also supporting youth. For example, UNFPA is providing sexual and reproductive health support services to youth, working through the government, ministries and departments, and also through some non-governmental organizations. So yes, the partnership platform does spell out what areas should be considered, or in terms of benchmarks, to say, yes, the youth are participating, are the women also participating, are other people also participating. So that's what I can add to that one. Thank you, Rasi.
Mark, a last indicator that I wanted to add is within the context of the survey that we are conducting with the youth of Zambia and with the people of Zambia using the youth. We were able, through youth, working with different youth organizations, to put together, to get about 50,000 answers collected by those youth, and making Zambia #2 worldwide in terms of results accomplished with the survey that UNIC, congratulations, Mark, is leading right now. So that is an indicator showing that we did these results through the youth, the different youth groups that we collaborate with here in Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumba. I'll now turn over the floor to the ambassador on the resolution 2250 to make it easily understood by young people from all areas, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Good question.
The ambassador's gone mute. The mic is mute.
Okay, I'm trying. Do you hear me?
Yes,
I think what is important and interesting is that you referred in the question, a very good question, to the Security Council resolutions. And I think that increasingly there is a stronger normative framework that has emerged around youth, peace and security. And I think that is very welcome. Before taking up the position as ambassador of Sweden to Zambia, I was working at the Stockholm Ministry of Foreign Affairs our tenure at the Security Council. And we were very actively, as Sweden also, engaged in supporting all those steps around the key UN Security Council resolutions referring to youth and peace and security. What I think it's of course so important that in this work the youth itself are involved, and I do know that Sweden, through the SIDA, the Swedish Development Agency, is supporting an organization working within UN called the United Network of Young Peace Builders. And they are working, so we offer them support, and they have been lobbying within the UN and among member states, which really contributed their work and lobbying to the resolution 2250. And I think organizations like that, it might also go the other way, because we need to spread. And I think that was to the core of the question: how do we take out the content and make it alive? And I think we can use maybe as model what we have done when it comes to women, peace and security and that agenda, because that we have worked a bit more and longer on how to share and make its content relevant in practice. So I think there are good ideas, but we have all to work actively to inform and to share. And as governments, we can always support more information sharing about its content and what it means, and do it very concretely in the different countries and among youth organizations.
I think the ambassador is right. I think that we need to contextualize it according to where we are. And for that, the UN developed a lot of tools, studies and tools to make sense of the resolution to different communities. And I think that some of the things that are suggested that youth can do is strengthening community cohesion and reconciliation through intercommunal religious and ethnic dialogues and events. They can also build civic awareness through debates and public campaigns. They can organize such things such as peace walks, rallies, and social media movements to promote peace. Engaging in community entrepreneurship and livelihoods programs through capacity building and training can also promote peace. Advocating for the participation and inclusion of youth in decision making by participating in conferences, producing policy papers, organizing forums. I think it's underway in many regions. I know that here in Africa, particularly in the southern part of Africa, youth groups are very active in organizing even their own government. They even have governments parallel to the official government of their regions, of their countries. And also establishing alliances, networks of youth councils and clubs to connect young peace builders, build their capacity and leadership, and promote their participation in peace building frameworks. Those are a few examples that probably we can share with you in the platform to help unpack what the resolution is about. Thank you very much. I think it was a very relevant question, and for sure we will not have enough time to unpack it here, but we can share what is being done in different contexts to make it a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumba. I think there's a question that says, how feasible is the attainment of SDG 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions in the wake of tension between superpowers and global/domestic tourism? So how feasible is the attainment of SDG 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions in the wake of tension between superpowers and global/domestic tourism? May I request the ambassador to handle this one, then I will go to Dr. Kumba for the question on UN youth engagement.
It's still very good questions, also hard questions. I think relating to the reason maybe why we are having this discussion now is also the commemoration of Dag Hammarskjold. And during those turbulent years, there was strong superpowers, and I think he managed to make UN relevant and strong at a point when I think most of the powers did not expect those kind of actions and muscles from the UN. So one question or answer would be that, I mean, peace, justice, and strong institution, it's to the core, it's still so relevant. It was at that time, and I think that that it's still a it's a very important goal, and we have to offer our support to UN and to its institutions and to the multilateral framework, because I think that to smaller countries, and that goes for Sweden, for example, and for Zambia as well, in a way, that we need to international law, the multilateral framework, is very important to us because it's sort of a guardian to maybe superpowers or big powers. They still have the muscles. So I think that to make that goal feasible, yes, I think it is, but we have to work together to safeguard the multilateralism and international law. I think that is the best to protect and to what we have achieved, and also to guarantee some peace and justice and its institution in challenging times. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'll just tackle one question quickly before we go to the resident coordinator. There's one youth who was asking, how can youth be monitored by governments as they engage in sustainable development? What I can say on this one is that to start with, as a young person, as a youth, you should always start with yourself. So I think the accountability has to start with the individual before you expect others to monitor what you're doing. So just 5 things that I pick, drawing from the lessons that we learned from Dag Hammarskjold. One, he was a peacemaker. So I think even at the level where you are, always think of, am I bringing peace or bringing division in my community or my country? Secondly, as you monitor yourself, look at issues of integrity. Uphold yourself with the highest standards. The way we saw Dag Hammarskjold upheld the values of the UN Charter, even amidst a lot of opposition. Third, it's the issue of fairness. As you do your work, how fair are you in your dealings? Are you giving equal weight to all the voices that you need to represent? Number 4, it's about serving the interests of others, okay, beyond self, but going to the level of where you can achieve for others. And lastly, it's the issue of justice linked to fairness, ensuring that justice is achieved at all times. So starting with the accountability within yourself, then now letting yourself be examined and be accountable to others. So I think it's much more at the individual that it needs to start. Let me request the resident coordinator to respond to this other question as we go into the last 12 minutes of the program. RC, over to you. Thank you. You're on mute, RC.
Mark, can you repeat the question?
Okay. So just a minute. Let me just go back to it.
Is it the one on bringing together the youth?
This one says, how can youth shun away from being used as tools of violence, and why should they take the lead in driving sustainable peace?
I think that's a very interesting question, and I think you already responded to some of it. I think that youth should focus on positive ideas, on positive actions, on positive activities that can contribute to the development of their countries. Because we have seen, in histories of many countries, youth and women particularly being used for violence, particularly during times of elections in many countries, and being killed, and for nothing will happen later. While I think that youth are energetic forces that should be used in the forefront of the development of their countries, of their continent. So youth should, I think, bring their potential together with the support, of course, of their government and of all partners, so that they can use that potential into positive vibes, into positive contributions into the development of their countries, and particularly for within the context where we are at the United Nations. We have had the chance every year almost to organize those global youth forums. And I know that the last two youth forums focused on development and on SDGs. How can we, in collaboration with youth, reach the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030? That has been like the main focus of our organizations. And that's where we want the youth to focus, to see how can they be empowered by participating in decision-making processes, by contributing to peace, what we are discussing today, and by contributing to other, equal access opportunities. How do we improve the equal access opportunities of youth? I think, to just put it in a nutshell, those are more positive things that can be used to bring their countries, to hope to support their countries into reaching their development goals, instead of focusing on violence that will destroy the gains of development that have been already reached by their countries. I would say no to violence. I would say no youth who respect himself or herself should be part of violence. Au contraire, they should discourage violence and promote peace and development. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumba. I think I'll now request the ambassador just to give final remarks in 1.5 minutes as we go to the end of the program, Your Excellency.
Thank you. I would like to thank everyone, and especially the youth that put so good and relevant questions. I think that shows how well suited you are also to bring forward your thoughts and opinions and take it also to action. And I think this has been very valuable to me also as representing a government, and what can governments and countries do, and how can we also support. And that is part of what I mentioned initially. We here in Sweden work with globally in all embassies in all countries where we are, and that is a drive for democracy, and it goes to the core of a democratic development also, that there is inclusion and inclusion of all in all aspects, not the least the decision making. And also to have this conversation that we had today has been excellent. And I'm very pleased and happy that we were able to have that as a commemoration of the legacy of Dag Hammarskjold. And next year it will be 60 years since the incident in Andola. And I look forward to, if not before, that we will together and with other partners do something in a year's time as well, and maybe also continue and see if we can take stock on possible achievements on the discussion also with youth on this important topic. So thank you all for letting me participate in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Joseph, over to you. Your last remarks, Joseph, before we close.
Yeah, okay. Your Excellency.
Yeah, unmute, Joseph.
Okay, thank you so much, Your Excellency, Dr. Kuma and Mark, and also to many young people who tuned in during this interesting and informative program. And we hope, like you and me, we've gotten to share and at the same time learn the importance and the role that we as young people, of course, through intergenerational dialogue and engagements, how we could collectively envision sustainable solutions towards peace and ensure that we achieve the ultimate sustainable development goals overall. And we hope that it is not just during this commemoration, but in our everyday choices and actions, as well as habits, that we can do this. We've come a long way, and we still have a long way to go, and together we are in this together. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Joseph. Before I close, let me again apologies to those that faced challenges to access the discussion on Facebook. But we are glad that you were able to join us through the UNIC Lusaka YouTube channel. And thank you very much for all the questions that came in. Let me sincerely thank the UN Resident Coordinator for joining us on this program and sharing insights. Also, thank you very much to the Swedish Ambassador also for joining and also sharing insights, and also to Joseph also for joining and sharing your inspiration and insights, and also sharing that wonderful song about peace. Thank you very much to all the youth that were able to connect, for everyone that sent in the questions. We look forward to our next discussion, which will take place in about 2.5 weeks, centered around the Sustainable Development Goals. So we look forward to your involvement in terms of all the youth that are here on the program, so that in this decade of action towards the SDGs, we can continue talking about the Sustainable Development Goals and the role that you have as a youth in bringing a difference, in creating a better world, so that in the end we can have the future that we want, and indeed the United Nations that we need. So thank you very much again to everyone for joining this program, and to my colleagues at UNIC also for support. Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.